Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. In today's video we'll be completing Hitman 2's 6th mission, the Ark Society, on Master difficulty with suit only, silent assassin fully intact, the entire HUD turned off with no cuts and no saves. The mission is quite simply to eliminate 2 targets and extract the 3rd, and the video will be broken down into 2 stages. The first stage is the plan. This is where I'll be scoping out the level, finding paths and secret passageways, picking up intel and making lots and lots of mistakes. The second stage is the execution. This is where all HUD options will be turned off and I'll carry out the plan that was designed in stage 1. As always, the loadout for the mission will be the original starting location, 47 signature suits, the ICA gold baller, the lockpick MK3 and 3 coins. Welcome to Supercut, the series where we take an entire let's play and condense it into one video. My name is Mr. Supercut and this is the planning stage of Hitman 2's the Ark Society. As always, run 1 is about gathering intel, so after being introduced to the Ark Society by a magician, I had a quick look around the courtyard, picked up a brick, proceeded through the main gate and got spotted by a camera. A nearby civilian couldn't have put it any better.
We're off to a good start.
I headed back to the courtyard and climbed up a pipe leading to a section of the castle's battlement and peeked into the guard station, deciding to leave them alone, and then climbed through a window into the barracks, avoiding the gaze of the square-eyed guards, and then headed out of the nearby door, silently stalking past the next group. I climbed up a nearby ladder and up the wooden stairs and found an open casket without a body. Diana informed me it was likely Janus's, the war criminal from Whittleton Creek. I skulked around the giant rocks and then hopped down into the tall grass near a gun-toting guard just across the way from our first target, Zoe Washington. Once the guard had moved along, I headed toward the tower and climbed all the way to the very top and then saved the game before pushing the ugly gargoyles off their perches. Nothing happened other than the guards investigated a little bit and that was that. I then climbed into a bathroom, flooded the sink to distract the guard and then launched a soda can through the window and dumped his body. I dumped his weapon in the nearby bin and then lured the second guard toward me with a toss of a coin. I dumped his body and headed into the upper room of the tower and read a file on a laptop, found a photo of the Constant and Janus, picked up 2 cannonballs and then realised the Constant was actually on the floor below. I lured a guard up the stairs and launched a cannonball at his head and then headed downstairs, launched a cannonball at the Constant's head, which Diana told me was premature, and then knocked out the butler. Diana asked me to hide the body and continue on with the mission, all of this implying that I needed to take out the 2 targets before I attempted to extract the Constant. I began dragging his body and quickly realised I had no way to actually dump the body other than out of a window, which would have probably killed him. I clambered around the outside of the tower and eventually managed to knock out the 2 patrolling guards at the front entrance and decided to leave the Constant where he was and carry on across the glass bridge. I couldn't figure out where the camera was on the other side of the door, so climbed up the pipe and through the window. I eventually made my way all the way to the very top, finding myself in the original glass onion, albeit more of a glass Lego brick, and took out all of the guards. I then caught my breath by taking in the dismal sights, and with the air being a little thin from all the way up in my ivory tower, I headed back inside. All that happened for the next 20 minutes was I worked my way down through each floor, taking out every person that I could see, eventually ending back where I started near the glass bridge. I shimmied along the edge and turned off a fuse box just to see what would happen and then slammed a cannonball into the back of the investigating waiter's head. I then shimmied along toward an open window and spotted my second target, Sophia Washington, heading into the room just as I arrived. After she'd headed into the room next door, I climbed into what was known as the Raiders room. There were 3 guards in this room, 2 of which didn't move and 1 of which moved from A to B to A to B to A to B. I knocked out the first guard, and as I knocked out the second guard, the 3rd guard became alerted and quickly incapacitated. I stole his outfit and dumped 2 bodies and then ran into the next room, finding 2 guards, a camera and a surveillance system. I read a file on a laptop, went through the next door, knocked out the woman, switched off the model lights, caused a civilian to investigate and also got spotted by a camera. I shot the investigating civilian, who happened to be an important figure for a story mission or something like that, and then as I went to head back into the surveillance room, I realised I needed a key card to get back in, luckily finding one dropped by either a dead guard or a dead architect. I shot the camera, shot the 2 guards and then shot the surveillance system just in time to see Sophia coming through the door and so shot her as well. I picked up a kill switch detonator and me being me pressed it immediately, only to be told that the Constant had now been killed and the mission was over. With a very boring but informative run under my belt, in run 2 I tried searching for a different route into the castle near the jetty where the guards were guarding. Unable to figure out how to get through, I headed the same route I took in run 1, except this time headed into the security room. There were 4 guards in this very small and cramped room, and after making it out alive and unseen, I got immediately spotted by a camera above the door on the outside. I veered off and quickly climbed a ladder where I found some guards fiddling with a satellite dish, and after knocking out one of them, who I thought was well out of sight of the others ran over with their fingers on the triggers. I knocked one out and shot the other, but not before he fired off a round, alerting everybody else. I started shooting the satellite dish to see what would happen, and I heard a guard in the distance say, "He's shooting at us," and began to fire. Realizing I was dealing with an American guard unit, always looking for an excuse to cite the Second Amendment, I shot him in the ribcage and carried on. I started shooting some gargoyles in cages hanging around the castle, and eventually blew up a heater, taking several civilians out in a blaze of glory. After firing some rounds into the crowd, they eventually looked up and found where I was, and so before they could take me out, I hit restart. In run 3, I headed toward the small hut and flipped some switches, causing one of the guards to come and investigate. However, I had no opportunity to take him out as there were still several guards nearby. So I waited for them all to disperse, shot the camera above the door, causing one of the guards to investigate, then flipped the switch again, except this time I waited on the other side of the door and snuck in as the guard went to investigate. I grabbed a book from the table, which the guard obviously saw as I was about 1 centimeter away from his face, then headed out, launched the ore at one of the guards' heads and shot the rest. I then headed through the small hut and out of a window, climbed up the nearby rock face, picked the lock to an underground tunnel, climbed a ladder and found myself in the future. I shot the civilians and then just went on a Friday the 13th massacre, got some satisfying headshots, and then eventually got taken out. In run 4, I did the same thing as last time, minus being spotted and killing all the guards, and instead of heading up the ladder, I continued onward through the tunnel system. I waited for the waitress to move along, and unfortunately for her, there was no way for me to get around, so knocked her out and dumped the body. I then found a secret passageway leading into a crypt and climbed a ladder, finding myself in a room with several guards all sat around twiddling their thumbs. I then headed through into the adjoining room, finding another magician. I shot everyone in the room along with the camera, read some files on a laptop giving me intel on a story mission about burning some giant effigy, and peering out of the window I found said effigy the files alluded to. I opened another door and one of the guards managed to get a glance at the dead bodies and radio it in just before taking a bullet to the head. I climbed the stairs and found myself at the top of a crumbled tower overlooking the rest of the castle and managed to spot the Constant having a grand old time across the way. I was already tired of this run, so took out my pistol and shot him dead and then hit restart. In run 5 I headed up the main stairway, up the pipe in the courtyard, and then climbed through a window into the barracks, out the other side, and then up the stairs to the upper platform. This time I managed to take out all 3 guards without being spotted, and then tried to figure out if there was anything I could do with the satellite dish. After determining there wasn't, or more likely there was but I was too dumb to figure it out, I headed down the stairs, shot the camera and headed along the south wall, found a break in the wall and slid down a pipe and managed to find an area that wasn't considered trespassing. I came across a large door with an unfriendly looking knocker, knocked it, and then got turned away as this door was for initiates only. Of course this would normally have piqued my interest, but as this was a suit only run, I didn't have time to entertain it. I knocked the door again and this time posted an unfriendly letter through the letterbox and very quickly got taken out by quite a lot of guards. In run 6 I headed into the main castle area, ignoring the fact my face was on TV, and had a look around the area for an entrance into any other part of the castle. I couldn't find one, so headed to the future and had a tour of the facility by some woman. She explained what the room was and what it did, and after the tour she decided to just stand around, making it very difficult for me to head through the secret entrance, so I distracted her with a flooded sink, knocked her out and dumped her body, and found that she dropped a key. I then used that key to gain access to some room which had another key and an outfit of a musician. The musician outfit came with a blindfold, assumedly because the musicians weren't allowed to see who was involved in the Ark Society, which put 47 into his instinct mode, which I thought was quite an interesting touch. After that I headed to a metal gate and unlocked it using one of my keys, then headed into another room finding an iron and some rat poison. I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how to get through the metal gate without being spotted and had to resort to a lot of distractions and knockouts, unfortunately still getting spotted in the process. The guards escorted me away and then I tried it again, this time successfully. I headed up the stairs and found 2 members of staff gossiping in the corner. I dropped a chandelier which nobody noticed and then realised that I came out exactly where I'd been before. I headed through a nearby door into the kitchen area and slowly made my way through, making sure to avoid the chefs and picking up a frying pan along the way. I was trying to get access to one room in particular and managed to do that, but just barely, as head chef came to investigate. After that, I climbed through an open metal grate into what looked like a jail cell which opened into a strange interrogation room. Unfortunately, I got spotted by a camera, so rushed out and found myself leaving through the door with the unfriendly knocker. I headed up the ramp and found myself beneath the effigy and decided to start the ceremony by picking up the torch and setting the cache ablaze. I then headed up the stairs and knocked out 2 initiates, picked up one of their outfits, then headed through the nearby door, knocked out the 2 guards, picked up one of their outfits, and headed through into the magician's room and found one of my targets just standing there. They were, of course, all very surprised to see me, and I shot most of them dead, but my compassion in knocking out the 2 civilians was my downfall, as I allowed one of them to basically escape, allowing some other guards to get the jump on me. I swapped outfits with the magician and then got taken out. Run 7 saw me up the pipe distracting a guard and then stealing his outfit. I waltzed into the security room and attempted to take out several of the guards quietly, to no avail. After taking them all out loudly, I hit restart. In run 8 I tried taking them out again but failed, so went on a guard shooting rampage, followed by a chef shooting rampage, and then found myself in a room filled with a small army. Eventually I headed into the crypt, worked my way around the outskirts of the area, found my way up near a helicopter, into the room with the magician, and after some more cold-blooded killing, I got taken out. In run 9 I headed through the barracks near the 3 guards, quietly worked my way past them, and then through the door with the gossiping staff. I knocked them both out after being spotted, and then headed up a wooden staircase taking me toward the casket area from run 1. I got spotted and then got escorted away, and then went and picked up the flaming torch, snuck into the back rooms and crypt, got spotted, headed back out, burned the cache, and then got taken out. In run 10 I headed past the 3 guards and up a ladder, past the casket, and then told the musician to start playing the music, signalling the ceremony was ready to start. The director came up the stairs and had a go at the musician for starting. I then asked the musician to start playing again. The director came back, scolded the musician, and then I knocked her out, got spotted, and blasted to smithereens. In run 11 I asked the musician to cue the music again and then left her and the director to it. I headed toward the tower and headed through the door and found some mad woman talking to and dressing Janus's corpse. There were also a lot of guards, so I slowly began dispatching of them, and unfortunately the mad lady found one of them unconscious against a wall. I headed into the room, knocked out the last guard, and tried to throw my weapon at the lady's head, which missed, then picked up Janus's corpse outfit, launched a screwdriver at the director's head, cued the music, and then hopped into the casket. A number of people then came to pay their respects, and one of my targets gave a couple of words, and 47 just lie there absolutely dead still. After everyone had said their goodbyes, the Constant had a chance to say something, and then Zoe, in all her arrogance, leaned over the coffin and breathed her foulness through my mask, and after listening to her absolutely slandered Janus, which was obviously deserved to be fair, I snapped her neck and launched her off the cliff. Obviously this run was not what I wanted, so I hit restart. In run 12 I headed back to the base of the tower and this time managed to take everyone out without alerting anybody else. After knocking out the final guard I headed up the stairs and found some gunpowder, and then headed outside, knocked out a guard and watched to see if he would fall off the edge. I found myself near the glass bridge, knocked out the second guard, and then saw the Constant walking across the bridge, so I hid behind one of the pillars, launched the bottle of chloroform I'd found at his head just as he opened the doors to the tower. Once the cloud had dispersed, I choked out the fleeing butler and stole his outfit, and then took out the guard who'd gotten stuck behind the door and then stole his outfit. I then crossed the bridge and headed through the castle and came out near another satellite dish and an important looking man in a very silly costume. A civilian saw me pick a lock to a nearby door and came over to scold me, so I scolded him back. I then headed into the main area, distracted a woman with a vacuum cleaner, then knocked her out, then stabbed some dude with a screwdriver, had another rampage, and got taken out. In run 13, after passing the casket, I headed up a pipe connected to the castle near the glass bridge and shimmied along and then slid down a pipe and broke in through the nearby door. I found myself in just a random room which led into a heavily populated area in the castle. I switched on a vacuum cleaner but nobody came to investigate, so I climbed back up the pipe and spotted the Constant and one of my targets engaged in conversation. I flipped the switches and left the investigating waiter alone and then shimmied across into the raiders room as Sophia left it. Knowing that Sophia passed through this room only being followed by one guard, I needed to figure out how to take out these 3 guards without any of them noticing they were being taken out. I attempted a knockout but got immediately spotted, so hit restart. In run 14 I made my way to the raiders room and saved the game. Once the moving raider moved away from the table, I crept up behind one of them and knocked him out, glad to find that the other 2 didn't hear a thing. I dragged him behind the sofa and waited for the mover to move away, and then attempted to dump the body only to be spotted doing so, so hit reload. In run 15 I knocked him out and dragged his body away, forgetting to pick up his rifle, only to find that the mover actually spotted the rifle and went next door to put it away. I scurried over to the one who didn't move and knocked him him out, and whilst dragging his body behind the sofa, the mover came back and saw me dragging his mate, so I hit reload. In run 16 I knocked out the first guard and left the weapon, only to find that this time the mover did spot the weapon, so when his back was turned I picked it up and dropped it closer. After he picked up the weapon I knocked out the other guard and dumped his body and managed to duck behind the sofa as the other guard came back, finding the second weapon lying around, and as he picked it up, Sophia entered with her personal bodyguard. Sophia went next door, and as the moving guard turned his back, I dragged the second unconscious guard to the box and dumped his body. I then launched a soda at the bodyguard's head, which the other guard noticed, launched a crowbar and missed a shot on Sophia, so hit reload. In run 17 I managed to dump both guards before Sophia entered the room, and the other guard had returned to his post, meaning he and Sophia began to have a chat. Once that was over, she moved next door and I was left with 2 guards to take out. I knocked out the bodyguard and then the second guard, but Sophia was way too quick in the next room and spotted me dragging him away, so I launched a crowbar and hit reload. In run 18, after knocking out the first guard, I picked up his weapon and dropped it directly behind the moving guard to ensure he spotted it on his first turnaround. I picked up the crowbar and dragged the guard behind the table, knocked out the second guard as the moving guard moved away, but unfortunately he spotted his unconscious friend lying on the floor, so I had to take him out and the next 2 guards out. Then I went on another rampage and hit reload. In run 19 I dropped the weapon and dragged the body, but as the guard turned around he spotted the body immediately, so I took the 2 guards out, had another rampage and hit reload. In run 20 I managed to successfully knock out all 3 guards and dump 2 of them before Sophia entered the room. I then left the weapon lying on the floor to see what would happen when Sophia rolled through. She reported the weapon to her personal bodyguard, who picked it up and moved it away, giving me a chance to take out Sophia. I dragged her body away, but unfortunately the bodyguard saw me doing it, so I took him out and hit reload. In run 21 I picked up all the weapons and Sophia didn't have anything to report, so she moved along into the next room and knocked out her personal bodyguard and dragged him behind the sofa, hid behind the table ready for when she came back through, and as she did, she spotted a leg poking out from behind the sofa. She ran in to investigate, I knocked her out and snapped her neck, but unfortunately the rest of the guard unit followed her, so I took them out and hit reload. In run 22 I tried taking the 3 guards out without having any of them leave the room, but it didn't work, so I hit reload. In run 23 I was too slow dumping a body and got spotted, so hit reload. In run 24 I dropped the weapon right behind the moving guard and for some reason he didn't see it, so I knocked him out and hit reload. In run 25 I got spotted knocking one of them out, so hit reload. In run 26 I knocked them all out, knocked out the bodyguard, positioned them both behind the sofa to ensure Sophia didn't see either of the bodies as she walked through, launched a screwdriver at her head, and finally she was taken care of. I picked up what she was carrying, a keycard and kill switch for the Constance brain implant, headed into the next room, launched a screwdriver at the camera which didn't cause too much of an issue, headed back through, tossed a coin to distract one of the guards, knocked him out, knocked out the second, disabled the cameras, picked up my screwdriver and dumped the 2 bodies in the nearby wardrobe. With Sophia taken care of, I legitimately had no idea what to do next. I began distracting the architects and knocking them out and then dumping their bodies in a side room, eventually building quite the collection of unconscious bodies and amassing what looked like a rat cave. With no more bodies to take out, I climbed out of the window to find Zoe directly beneath me and saw a hanging cage nearby. I shot the cage and then wondered if it were a possibility of dropping the cage onto her head as she walked past. I decided to just shoot Zoe and climb back inside, and unfortunately found that I wasn't able to head back into the raiders room due to not having a valid keycard. And before any of you leave any comments, shooting it also didn't work. A guard then ran in, so I shot him dead along with several others and then got taken out myself. After all of that, I hit restart and began a fresh run in order to see if it were possible to crush Zoe with a cage or something like that, because I knew that near the beginning of the run she was walking not far away from Janus's casket and tended to be around as I crept across the platform. I distracted and knocked out a guard and stole his outfit just so I could explore the scene in a little more detail, and then found Zoe heading outside. As she came out of the door, I looked up and found a cage dangling above her head. I began following her through the castle, and whilst inside the exhibition area I saved the game to see what would happen if I dropped the chandelier from above. Unfortunately I missed and began to get shot at, so hit reload. In run 28 I dropped the chandelier, but everybody became immediately hostile and took me out. In run 29 I refrained from dropping the chandelier and continued to follow Zoe through the castle, and once I couldn't follow any longer I found another way to the courtyard housing the helicopter, got spotted trespassing, but exited the area very quickly anyway, so it didn't matter. I found Zoe again, followed her all the way around to the casket, and the cycle began again. After watching an encounter between Zoe and the Constant, I followed her back into the exhibition and climbed to another platform and tried to do something on the laptop, only to be blocked by some rando. He eventually moved to come and tell me off, so I gave him the old 1-2 and messed around with the laptop, causing the glass around the exhibitions to be removed. I climbed down and got taken out, so hit restart. In run 30, on a fresh run, I watched Zoe from across the way in order to drop the cage on her head, but unfortunately Unfortunately, I either timed it wrong or it didn't drop anywhere near her, and so then hit restart. In run 31, I messed around for a bit waiting for Zoe to do her lap of the castle, and then saved the game before she came out through the door so I could keep practicing to see if it was my poor timing or just the fact she wasn't anywhere close. I dropped the cage and it missed again, so I hit reload. In run 32, I was feeling kinda done with it all, so climbed behind the casket and shot Zoe as she came outside, shot some guards and then got taken out myself, so hit restart. In run 33, I climbed the tower housing Janus's corpse, knocked out some of the guards at the top and couldn't figure out where to take it from there, so hit restart. In run 34, I watched Zoe from a short distance away and then climbed the pipe near the glass bridge and got off on the lower platform, finding myself in a small courtyard. I snuck through the long grass and came to a door, broke in and got spotted immediately. I launched a brick at the guard's head and then got taken out, so hit restart. In run 35, I headed back to the room and managed to enter without getting spotted. The room was filled with guards and boxes and I couldn't find a way through, and as I headed back I got spotted, so I jumped over the balcony and dropped down to the floor below, smashed open a couple of boxes and then got taken out. In run 36, I decided to just jump straight down, and once my feet hit the floor I saved the game. I destroyed the nearby camera, causing a nearby worker to come and investigate, almost spotting me in the process. I grabbed him from behind the wall and unfortunately got spotted on the other side by a guard, choking this guy out. Stole his uniform, rampage, taken out. This time for run 37, I turned off the generator and then knocked out the guard whilst he investigated and stole his uniform. I then launched a screwdriver at the camera, which meant nothing happened, and then almost got spotted by a second camera. I thought about destroying it, but there was actually too many nearby witnesses, so I headed back near the stairs and found that I could actually climb around. However, I pulled myself back up because I had just found a big shiny button. After pressing it, I found a secret passageway open up, and after travelling through, I found myself in the main castle area. I headed back to where I found the secret passage to find that the unconscious body was nowhere to be seen. I hid behind the wall away from the patrolling guard just as a naked man sprinted past. I thought he was going so fast that he wouldn't even have time to see me, but alas, he stopped and pointed me out to the guard like a snitch, so of course he got stitches. I shot everyone else, worked my way upstairs, and then found a worker breaking it down on the dance floor. Quite literally, I think all of his bones are now broken. I headed over to where Janus was being prepped for burial, took everyone out, up the stairs, stabbed the butler, moved back over to the castle, and eventually found Sophia perched near the balcony, so of course tossed her over the edge and then got taken out. The first 37 runs were filmed between March 26th and March 30th, and I left it there for about 2.5 months before picking it back up again. So for run 38, I headed to the Raiders room and waited for Sophia to enter and then leave, and then thought it might have been a good idea to try and drop the chandelier onto Sophia when she entered the room. I jumped back out of the window to see if I could aim through, which I couldn't, then jumped back in and shot from behind the sofa, killing the guard. I then watched as the two guards cleaned up the area, flopping their comrade into a body bag and carted him off to who knows where, and then hit restart. In run 39, I wanted to see if I could shoot the chandelier from somewhere outside, so tried my best to aim my tiny little pistol from approximately 100 miles away. I saved the game, and then after determining there was absolutely no way of shooting the preferred chandelier, I headed to the Raiders room. As it had been 2 months since I last played this mission, I got spotted knocking the 3 guards out, but decided to carry on anyway. Sophia entered, I knocked out her guard and dragged him behind the sofa, and then Sophia spotted the other guard poking out from the other side. I then got spotted dragging the body and eventually got killed, so hit restart. In run 40, I failed to knock the guards out successfully again, so hit reload. In run 41, I failed to knock the guards out successfully again, so hit reload. In run 42, I got caught dragging one of the bodies behind the sofa, eventually got taken out and then hit restart. In run 43, I got spotted on the castle wall, so hit restart. In run 44, I managed to take out the 3 guards at the Raiders room and then had Sophia's guard pick up the drop rifle on the floor. I knocked out Sophia and snapped her neck, knocked out the bodyguard, and then saved the game. I headed into the next room and shot the surveillance system and then waited for the 2 guards to calm down again, then headed back to drag Sophia into the cupboard in the room next door along with her bodyguard. I then headed through the next door, knocked out the architect, tried to get back into the room with the guards but couldn't because I didn't have a key card, blah blah blah, and then headed into the main area and got spotted trespassing, so hit reload. In run 45, I shot the surveillance system from the adjoining room just as the door closed, and this time the guards didn't have a meltdown. I headed out of the window and distracted an architect who then took a phone call for one of the story missions, worked my way back to the glass bridge and dropped down into the courtyard on the other side. I was determined to work my way through to the other side of the relic room or whatever it was called, and decided to shimmy around the whole outside instead of going through the rooms. I wish I had noticed this path before because it actually ended up being the best decision I'd made so far. I jumped through a window and got spotted, so took out the 2 guards and then into the adjoining room I'd been in previously but from the other side. I obviously got spotted but headed through a set of double doors and was asked to leave by a guard that had followed me out, but not before finding my second target, Zoe, coming out of the doors on the other side of the hallway. This was huge, so I took her out, got taken out, and hit reload. In run 46, I headed around the outside of the relic room again, and this time didn't head through the window but snuck around through the courtyard, shot the camera above the door, and then just lie in wait for Zoe to show up. She was quite far away, which was good because it meant after taking out Sophia, I had time to make it here. As she came through the doors, I attempted to drop the chandelier on her head, but missed, got taken out, so hit reload. In run 47, I shot the surveillance system first to ensure I wouldn't forget about being spotted by the camera above the double doors outside, but got spotted, so hit reload. In run 48, I dumped Sophia's body in the cupboard and then headed through the adjoining room, getting spotted by a camera I'd failed to spot, jumped out of the window and shimmied along the outside, finding myself just above the area that I'd be taking Zoe out from. I got spotted through the window as I made my way across, but that didn't matter too much, dropped down and got spotted by the camera, which mattered actually a little bit more, and then headed into the hallway as Zoe had already moved on, got spotted by a guard, which mattered a great deal. I did get taken out, so hit reload. In run 49, I shot the surveillance system just as I left the room and then headed toward where I'd be waiting for Zoe, and unfortunately one of the guards I'd knocked out behind the sofa was spotted by one of the guards investigating the bullet impact on the surveillance system. Also, Zoe had already passed through, so the timing was way off. I followed her out, shot her dead, and then got taken out myself, so hit reload. In run 50, I didn't shoot the surveillance system and just shot the camera in the next room instead, unfortunately alerting the nearby architect, who spun around and spotted me. In run 51, I got spotted by the camera outside the double doors, however I did manage to drop the chandelier on Zoe. I could have exited the level via the helicopter right there, but I still needed to figure out how on earth to extract the constant as well, so with that I hit reload. In run 52, I made sure to shoot the camera whilst I was shimmying along and got to the doors just in time to drop the chandelier on Zoe. I climbed back up the pipe and using my instinct, I spotted the constant heading straight toward me. I climbed through the window just as he entered the room and then followed him out only to get spotted by an architect alerting everybody nearby. I shot the constant and then got killed myself, so hit reload to see if I could nab the constant before he left that room. In run 53, I headed into the room and began waiting for the constant, but he didn't make his way over at all and I couldn't figure out why. I waited and waited and waited and couldn't figure out why he wasn't moving like last time. I tried shimmying along the wall to see if that triggered him, but it didn't work. I eventually just walked straight up to him, and because everybody became suspicious, I triggered the kill switch and hit reload. Run 54, same thing, the constant wasn't moving. I tried tossing a coin to get him moving but couldn't toss it far enough, and even when I tried again and it was far enough, it still didn't do anything and I got arrested, so hit restart. In run 55, after climbing up the very first pipe, I opened the door to the security room, shot the surveillance system and then pressed on. I managed to make the guards at the top of the ladder hang around due to almost being spotted, so hit restart. In run 56, the timings were slightly different, so there was a guard in the way, so I waited for him to move on and then shot the surveillance system and pressed onward, getting spotted by a guard outside, so hit restart. In run 57, I made it all the way to the raiders room without any issues, knocked out the two guards and then got spotted by the third, knocked him out, and then had Sophia find the body, so hit restart. In run 58, I got the timings wrong due to almost being spotted again after climbing the ladder, so hit restart. In run 59, I took out the three guards in the raiders room, hid behind the sofa as Sophia arrived, and unfortunately, whilst moving around, got spotted by her guard, so killed Sophia and then got taken out myself, so hit restart. In run 60, I took out Sophia's bodyguard and dragged him behind the sofa and then managed to take out Sophia with a silenced SMG. I left her there, confident that nobody else entered or exited that room, and tried to press on as quickly as possible to ensure I didn't miss the window of opportunity with Zoe. I got there just in time, dropped the chandelier and flattened the second twin, then headed back up the stairs and saved the game, having ducked behind the sofa, waiting for the constant. Again, the constant wasn't moving. I shot a bullet next to his toes, which made him pretty suspicious, but not much else. I then distracted an architect in order to obtain his outfit, and then went and stood very close to the constant, causing him to begin moving. Obviously, this wasn't feasible in the final run, because I could not enter that room in my suit. I confronted the constant and then began escorting him out, changed back into my suit, and then got arrested for trespassing, so hit reload. In run 61, I fired a bullet, causing the constant to be whisked away by his squad, so hit reload. In run 62, same thing. In run 63, same thing. In run 64, I tried heading back toward the raiders room to see if that would trigger anything, but only remembered when I arrived that I couldn't get access without a keycard. However, didn't matter because the constant didn't move. I grabbed another outfit from an architect and this time spoke with the constant and stayed in costume. I escorted him all the way out of the castle, through an area that was considered trespassing, into the dance floor, and then just as we were leaving, I got spotted by some rando stood in the crowd. Still, we made our way to the boat, he got in, and we boated off into the already set sun. 64 runs, 4 stars, 14 minutes and 24 seconds, and still absolutely no flipping idea on how to escort the Constant out without alerting anybody. So, back to the drawing board. In run 65, I headed back to the Raiders' room and basically unloaded my entire weapon into the keypad and lock, which eventually caused the 2 guards on the other side to come and investigate, and I just about managed to follow them back into the room once they had calmed down. I climbed all the way back down to the 3 outdoor guards and headed into the room nearby, and after knocking them both out, I noticed that the Constant was finally on the move. But when I headed up the wooden staircase, I noticed he had moved back to the position I was trying to get him to move from. After many more minutes of waiting, he actually began moving again, and by some miracle, ended up walking to exactly where I was hiding. I lured him into the room, but a cruel twist of fate would have it that if I was currently trespassing, I couldn't interact or speak with the Constant. So he spun around and confronted me, and as he began to run away, I knocked him out. Diana then informed me that Mr. Grey would take it from here. I left the body on the cold prison floor and escaped the island via the boat and then hit reload. In run 66, I knocked out the 2 guards after tricking them into opening the door for me to see if either of them had a keycard that I could use. One of them had a keycard, but not one that would give me safe passage through this cursed door, so I hit restart. In run 67, I got spotted outside, so I hit restart. In run 68, I got spotted dragging Sophia's body, so hit restart. In run 69, I got spotted climbing the ladder, so hit reload, taking me back to the room waiting for the Constant. In run 70, I climbed out of the window and headed down the stairs and worked my way around the outside, ducking behind the pillars, failing to notice at this time that the Constant had actually begun moving. I climbed to the top of the tower to see what exfiltration opportunity was currently locked and if it were possible to take the Constant up here instead, and when I looked down, I then realised the Constant had moved. I headed back toward the 3 outdoor guards and into the room where I'd knocked out the Constant previously, and then just sat and waited for a while for the Constant to move again, which he didn't. I killed someone, then got killed, so hit reload. In run 71, I headed down the stairs again and around the outside and back into the room with the 2 members of staff, and after determining it wasn't worth waiting for the Constant to maybe or maybe not grace me with his presence, I headed out and boated off into the set sun. In run 72, I headed down the stairs again and then used my instinct to look back at the Constant and realised that what triggered his movement all this time was me heading down this set of stairs. I pounced on him as he walked through the room, but again, as I was trespassing, I couldn't interact with him, so I needed to find a way to exfiltrate him from an area where I wasn't already trespassing. In run 73, I stole an architect outfit and watched the Constant head outside and meet with the guy in the silly outfit, and then followed him back in where he just went back to his previous position and so hit reload. In run 74, I tried approaching the Constant from behind, but I still couldn't interact with him, so shot him dead and hit reload. In run 75, I knocked him out from behind and dumped his body, and Diana seemed to be pleased that I'd done that, and then I noticed that the task to help Lucas Grey extract the Constant had been completed. Now, technically, I hadn't extracted the Constant myself, but I had knocked him out and hidden the body to allow Grey to pick him up later on. So I stuck around the outside and sped off and finished the mission with a 5-star rating in 9 minutes and 21 seconds. In run 76, I now needed to practice it without any saves. When attempting to take out Zoe with the chandelier, I missed, so hit restart. In run 77, I took out Sophia, whose body got spotted by a bodyguard, so hit restart. In run 78, I got the timing all wrong and missed the opportunity to drop the chandelier on Zoe, so hit restart. In run 79, I missed again. In run 80, I missed the shot on the surveillance system, so hit restart. In run 81, I got spotted taking out the bodyguard, so I hit restart. In run 82, I missed the shot on the surveillance system. And finally, in run 83, I finished the level without making any mistakes in 8 minutes and 39 seconds. So, after 83 runs, it was time to turn all the HUD options off and attempt the mission for the final time. So, without further ado, I present to you my no HUD, suit only, silent assassin, master difficulty run of the Ark Society.
One more, I see. Won't you join us?
I see someone's in a hurry to get inside. Well...
That must be Janus's casket. Looks like the Arkians really admired him. But no body.
Ark Legacy Lego, like a wax statue. He never mentions anything to a sort of leader.
I assure you, his last will was quite clear on the matter.
And may we see this last will?
You can ask our lawyer, Mr. Yates. I already know the answer. Now, if you'll excuse me.
What was that? What irresponsible person left a weapon lying around?
One target down. Nice work, 47. Next up, Zoe Washington.
A remote trigger. Must be a kill switch.
I bet this would make the Constant come quietly. But first things first, 47. Focus on the target.
Okay.
Both targets down. Impressive work, 47. And now, to confront the Constant. Mr. Gray, what's your status?
I'm at the helicopter, but the place is crawling with security. 47, you better bring the Constant to one of the boats in the harbor where it's quiet. You can use the kill switch to coerce it.
Shit. So much for subtlety. Get out of there, 47. Mr. Gray will take it from here. Well, at least the damage is contained. For now.
Is the council still in session?
No, they've called a recess. Sophia Washington wants them to pass some kind of motion, but one of the council members is fighting her tooth and nail.
Huh. Wouldn't happen to be Jebediah Block, the coal baron, would it?
Yeah, how do you know?
Well, I have... Well... Oh. Well, back to my usual boring existence. Well, I happen to know he's on the council. One of the original five.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then do be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all future episodes. I will catch you in the next video, ready to take on 47's next mission in the heavily guarded bank in New York City.